Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to let you know that I have a brand new masterclass coming out on the 18th of April. It's the 7 Steps to Podcasting. This was voted for by my social media audience. It won out against the other by a margin, so I will do both at some point, but the first one is going to be the 7 Steps to Podcasting. So if you want to come and join me for this masterclass, it's going to run for about an hour on the 18th at 4 p.m. UK time. So join me by hitting the link in the show notes or head over to donnaeade.com/7 podcast steps, all one word. That's donnaeade.com/7 podcast steps. Now back to the episode. You're listening to the Mindset and Action Podcast, the place to be to grow and streamline your business. I'm your host, Donna Eade. Let's jump into the show. Energy and patience in business are two indispensable elements of success. P.T. Barnum. Welcome to this episode of the podcast, everybody. Today I have a guest, Tanessa Shears. She is absolutely fabulous and will help you upgrade your health so you can show up in your business like a boss. She will help you optimize your sleep environment, easily upgrade your nutrition, and offer highly effective strategies to optimize your work environment and manage your stress. So today we're going to be talking all about energy. Let's jump into it. I am so glad to have you here today, and I am so glad to introduce to you my guest, Tanessa Shears. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Donna. I'm really excited to have this conversation today. I'm looking forward to it.
So one thing that you won't know about me, but my listeners will, is that I absolutely love a good accent. And when I get somebody who has come from far away and has a wonderful accent, I absolutely love the episode just for the accent alone. So you're already winning.
Oh, I love it. And it's so funny because I obviously hear you with an accent, which is great.
Yeah.
That means it'll be a delight for both of us.
Exactly. And I just wanted to say before we jumped in that Tanessa reached out to me in my emails, and I have to say that your pitch was fabulous. I get so many people in my DMs and in my emails asking to come on the podcast, and it's quite shocking the way that they approach it. And I just wanted to say thank you for making it an email that was worth opening.
Oh, thank you. That was a labor of love working that one over the years, but thank you.
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of people don't actually sort of hit the right marks when it comes to applying to guest on podcasts. And as somebody who teaches people how to podcast, I have a big sort of thing for how people approach hosts to guest, and there's not many that get past the email stage, I have to say. So you are a special one. So I'm really excited for this conversation.
Oh, thank you for the feedback. I love it.
So we are going to be talking today about health and how that kind of affects our business. And what really interested me in what you're talking about in specifically is the energy. And for me, I think one of the things I've always said to my audience is that health and business go hand in hand. And I don't think you can have one without the other. And I heard you say that on your Instagram. So before we jump into the topic and answer all things energy, do you want to just introduce yourself to my people and let them know who you are, what you do, and how you came to be doing it?
Yeah. Well, my name is Tanessa Shears. I'm a health consultant, and I work with entrepreneurs to really help them find that energy and focus that goes missing. You know, as we're growing businesses, the easiest thing to slip off the plate is always like, oh, I'll get back to working out. I'll get back to planning my meals or eating healthy. I'll get back to sleeping. I'll get back to self-care and me time and just taking care of my energy. And it's one of those things where we keep being like, oh, when I get to my first 6-figure year, my first 10K month, like we have all these when then, I'll get my assistant. I'll do this. Then I will have all this time magically show up. I'm going to work on my health. There's never going to be any problems. And that never shows up. And so what ends up happening is we feel really tired. And we get really foggy, and then we get uninspired, and then it becomes a grind to show up because we're so drained and tired, and we feel like our lives are given to our kids and our partners and our businesses, and there's nothing left for us. And we're just not feeling the way we want to feel. Like, we open these businesses for freedom, and this does not feel free. This just feels like a lot of work, and I'm tired all the time. And when am I going to get out of this rut? And I thought I'd be better than this. So my job is I help entrepreneurs optimize their health. And I actually do it through, it's really cool. You can't see it because you're listening right now, but I'm wearing a ring, and it's called an Oura ring. And this ring is like, do you have an Oura ring on too?
I'm just getting it. This is my sizer. I just ordered my size yesterday. It's
okay,
on
we're
its
gonna
way.
be
I'm
best
so
friends.
excited.
So if you're listening and you're still like, what are they talking about? This ring is, okay, imagine you have your Apple Watch or your Fitbit, and that's good for, tracking steps and fitness and exercise and stuff like that. The Oura ring is the equivalent for tracking rest, resiliency, and recovery. And I always think, like, if we're talking about showing up in our business and being productive, energy is the currency for how productive we're, for how much we move our business forward, for being able to turn our brains off at the end of the day. And so I use the data from this to help us make decisions. That's how our brains work in data, return on investment, one change at a time, using data, managing numbers. And so I use this to help, build resilience, to get exercise in place that works for us, to eat the right foods, and to get really good sleep at night.
Love it. Yes, I am. I'm obsessed with data. That's my big thing. Is I love stats, and I love having competition with myself. It's not about
emotional.
what other people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't look at it and be like, I don't feel XYZ. It's like, no, I'm not getting enough deep sleep. No wonder I feel like I've been hit by a truck. I now know exactly what to work on. I'm not wasting my time. Like, we don't have time to waste. I want to know what's working, right?
Exactly that. Exactly that. And I loved everything you just said, because I think it is so, so true. And there are a lot of my listeners who are mums, and I feel like it is a sad state of affairs that still in this day and age, we are the ones that put ourselves at the bottom of the list and everything else comes first. And there has been this kind of movement, but I don't necessarily think it's the right movement, where it's just like all of these mums going, me first, me first, me first, but they're doing it to the detriment of everything else. And it's just like, oh no, it's this complete selfishness. Whereas putting yourself first for these kind of health benefits is selfless, because you get to show up better as a better mum, as a better partner, as a better business person, a better employer, etc. So I'm really excited to dive into this. So when we're talking about energy, I think a lot of times, and I speak from my own experience, because I feel like I haven't had energy since 2021 when my daughter was born. So, it's a thing. What causes lack of energy? Like, I'm constantly waking up feeling like I'm tired and I haven't had enough sleep, or, the energy, the mojo isn't there. I can't jump out of bed and be excited about it. So what are the things that really sort of impact our energy levels and can cause that to sort of drop through the floor?
Yeah, it's when there's all this inflammation that's building up in our body and we're not dealing with it. And when I worked with clients, you can clearly see it's usually from one of three places. Place number one is that we're experiencing low-level fight or flight on a regular basis, but we no longer have the capacity to shift out of it. Because I think fight or flight or stress gets a bad rap. We're entrepreneurs. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen regularly, and it's going to be unexpected, and it's going to feel like the world's falling down half the time. And should I get a job again? And am I really going to be doing that? Like, it's normal. We all want to shut our businesses down at least once over the duration of this. You're not alone if you've thought that. You're like, what am I doing? And so it's like you get stuck in this low grade fight or flight. And what is healthy is you experience fight or flight, and then you're able to pull out of it. But we're not able to pull out of it anymore. And so we're constantly just rushing around, feeling exhausted, feeling drained all the time, not taking care of ourselves. That's number one. The second one is what we put in our mouths. And we're not really looking at the fact that there's a couple things. It's are we eating a lot of inflammatory foods? And I'm talking like things like canola oil, seed oils that are very inflammatory and cause a lot of brain fog. The other way we can look at it is like blood sugar. And when I first heard blood sugar, I was like, I don't have diabetes, I'm fine. But we all have blood sugar. And it is the stability of your blood sugar which dictates the stability of your energy. And so if we're eating, for one, maybe we're not eating, maybe we're skipping meals because we're too busy working, or we're eating these really highly processed or high carb meals. Those are going to cause blood sugar swings. We're going to feel really foggy. So that's the second way. And the third way, and which I left it for last because I hands down. It's not just a pillar here. It's the foundation on which we build our entire energy system is our sleep. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to and say, I'm fine. My sleep is fine. And I go, well, why are we feeling so tired and drained all the time? And then what I do is I stick an Aura ring on them and they see, oh, wait a second. I'm only sleeping 6 hours a night. I am not getting quality sleep. Look how many times I'm awake at night. And there I love to start because it is free and you're doing it anyways with sleep. So why not start there?
Oh, that's so good. And I wrote sleep before you even said that. I knew it was coming. Sleep is the key to everything. I love it. And it's so true because there are so many people, especially entrepreneurs, busy mums, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I haven't got time to sleep. It's something that doesn't matter, but it is so, so important. So with those three things in mind, how do we start to shift our energy and move into that? Because you like to double the energy. I've seen this a lot on your Instagram, double your energy. And I'm like, I'm here for it. If I could double what I've got, I'd be somewhere. It would be really good. So how do we shift from being energy tired, lethargic, ready to just sleep at any moment, to somebody who is more energized and bouncy?
Yeah. You know what's funny? I would love to talk about sleep on this because I think it's the most bang for your buck. Like,
Yeah.
I think exercise and food are the sexy things where we're just like, yeah, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to work out and I'm going to eat. And we completely neglect sleep and we wonder why we fall off the wagon, don't get into it. But I think this conversation has been so potent in my communities over this last week. This is conversation of like when we decide we want to do anything with our health, we don't deprioritize something else. And it's like, we just add, it's this concept of like, I want to go to bed an hour earlier and maybe I want to make some extra time to meal plan and maybe I want to only work out twice a week, something small. But we don't deprioritize or take something off. And so we add on to a full schedule and we get overwhelmed really fast. And we're like, oh my gosh. And so I think with that conversation you asked around energy, without consistency, it doesn't matter what I say. And so we really have to have this conversation around like, why aren't we being consistent? And I think that one part, like I had just mentioned, has a lot to do with the fact that we just think of this as something we can easily add. And I think we need to have real conversations with ourselves about why we aren't deprioritizing something else. Meaning, like, do you really have time to add 4 hours worth of things per week and you're already overwhelmed? And we need to look at like, maybe this is a season of less Instagram scrolling. And I'm not saying no Instagram. Maybe this is a season of less Netflix, less YouTube, less whatever it is that you feel is not moving you forward until you can really get that experience of like, I feel better. Do I really want to go back to not feeling better? Is this a trade I'm willing to make? And I think the answer to that can be yes or no. But I think don't make that decision until you've had both experiences, right? And that second part of that conversation, when we talk about consistency, really comes down to discomfort. And I feel that when I hear someone say on the wagon, off the wagon, I can't stick to it. I've never been able to. I've always been like this. We have these conversations. Why bother trying? It's who I am. Like nothing works for me. It is usually because we have a very low tolerance for discomfort. Because anything new, it might be a new, and I don't mean language in the sense of like we're speaking English right now. I mean a new language of new, you have to learn how to read Oura Ring data, or you have to learn how to work out and what an exercise is called, or you have to learn how to find recipes. Like it's all a language we're learning. And it's uncomfortable. You're learning, you fail all the time, you don't understand things, you got extra time to Google. It's a hard startup energy. And a lot of us don't have that capacity to feel discomfort and recognize that nothing has gone wrong. We're like, oh gosh, uncomfortable, grab a glass of wine. Oh gosh, uncomfortable, scroll the phone. Oh gosh, uncomfortable, watch more Netflix. Instead of, oh gosh, uncomfortable. No, this is what's supposed to happen here. I got to keep going and realize that what I want requires a higher level of discomfort, especially to get started. And recognizing that doesn't mean something's gone wrong. So I think that that's more important. Like, let's dive into sleep. But if we can't be consistent with what we learn, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's so true because I think in business, we're often willing to do those uncomfortable things. We'll push ourselves. We'll get to those stages, like you were saying. One of my friends, she's been in business now for 11 years, and it was only last month. Sometimes she turned around to her other half and went in and went, I'm going to close business down. I'm done. And she was like ready to call it quits. But she's done that so many times over the years. But we push past that discomfort to get the end result. Yet with ourselves and our personal health and goals, it's so easy to go, oh no, that's a little bit uncomfortable. Let's go back to the comfort zone. Let's just sit in that for a while.
That's why I love working with entrepreneurs, because we have the skill set of being uncomfortable for a greater vision. And so it's so much easier for you to transfer that skill set to your health than have to build it from scratch. And that's why I love entrepreneurs.
I love it. I love it. So we are working on these shifts, and we know that sleep's important, and we could do a whole episode on sleep, I'm sure. But how does shifting our energy make us more money? That is something that you said in your email, and I was just like, hang on a minute. Tell me more about that.
This is a really common example. I want you to picture this. You started your day at 8. It's 1:30 in the afternoon right now. Your brain is not working very fast anymore. You got distracted by an email, and then all of a sudden you're on Amazon. And why are we in Facebook Marketplace searching for treadmills? And we're sitting here like, oh gosh, oh no, back to it. You get back to it. And you're just like so slow to think. You're distracted. It's that afternoon energy crash we all know comes. It's like the end of the day. And now you're like, I know how to fix this. I'm going to save this part of the day for admin tasks or things that don't involve my brain. And so we start really we just normalize the fact that our brain doesn't work in the afternoon instead of being like, why doesn't my brain work in the afternoon? Maybe it's an issue, right?
So true.
And so think about this. Let's say you lose 3 hours in the afternoon to diddling around in low value tasks just to say you've done an 8-hour workday. What if you could fill that with actually like income producing tasks? What if you could create better relationships? What if you could send out a couple extra pitches? What if you could make a couple extra offers? Like, what if you were able to create better content and you didn't have to like cram it into the mornings because that's when your energy was best? So I really think like, what if you could take your 8-hour day and just instead of having a productive 8-hour day, what if you could just compress it into 6?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do with those extra 2 hours? There might be a project or two that you have on your to-do list that you might want to get to in your business, like, recording videos for something, creating a new program. You could leave work and spend time with your family. That could be the perfect time to put in a workout. And so if we really think about how energy affects our ability to make more money, it's you are able to use your brain at a higher capacity through a larger part of the day. And on top of this, I'll give you another example. I just did an interview for a podcast full of sales leaders. And we were having this conversation, and it was a reflection of something one of my clients had said to me. He said he was on a consultation call for a $100,000 job. And he works with government contracts, and he was getting a lot of pushback on certain things. And he's like, my brain was so sharp. I was coming up with answers. Like, if you ever been on a call or done an interview or something and you can feel your brain's like grasping for things and you don't know what to say and it's not fluid and it's like, he was like, I was able to just like, I knew exactly what I wanted to say. I could read their facial expressions. I knew exactly how to answer this objection. And what if you didn't land that $100,000 contract or whatever it is? Maybe it's your $2,000 package. Maybe it's your services. Like, how do you show up differently on sales or consultation calls? How do you show up differently when you're making your offer on Instagram stories? You're like, hey, come work with me. I can help you. Versus another tired rendition of like, I can help you. Nobody wants to work with someone who's tired. And so I think like it impacts your revenue in so many ways, from productivity to your clarity on sales calls, to your ability to deliver content and attract people that want to work with someone who feels alive and is inspiring and activating, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And it's so funny that you say that, because I was talking to somebody the other day saying how I've shifted my work day round to suit me better. I am not a morning person, never have been. I'm not going to be part of the 5 a.m. club. It just isn't me. I love my sleep. I can't wait to get my Aura ring and see the stats on things, because I'm pretty sure I don't get enough deep sleep. But that aside, I decided, I don't know, maybe at the beginning of this year, maybe a month ago, can't remember now, but I decided to start my workday at 12. and have that morning, those morning hours where, all the 5 a.m. club are doing all of their journaling and their exercising and all of those things that they do in the early morning. I was like, well, why can't I just start my day, shift it a little bit, and I'll start my day at 8 o'clock, and I'll have my morning doing my things, and I will get into it slowly, because I find that I am more productive around this sort of time. So we're at sort of 4:30 UK time now, and I'm just coming into my own. Like I'm here with the energy, I'm ready to go. And that's just how I am. So I was just like, I'm going to work with the flow of my energy and start my day later. And I said to somebody, the funny thing is when I used to work a day job, I would go in for 9:30, and the first thing I would do is go in and see my colleague who got in at 9 and have a 15-minute conversation with her with my first cup of tea of the morning. And then I go to my emails and faff around in there for a bit. And then mid-morning, I'd go back for another cup of tea and another chat with my friend. And the amount of time that I wasn't working while I was working is incredible. So I'm like, so why, when I came home and I started working, was I suddenly working 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. and still feeling like I was getting nothing done? Like, it's because I was following that same pattern. Exactly what you said earlier about suddenly reading an email and then suddenly being in Amazon and on Facebook and scrolling. I did the exact same thing before this call, because I wanted to record a different podcast episode, one of my solo ones. And I ended up opening an email. So no, somebody sent me a text about attending a networking meeting for her and said that she'd send me an email about it. And then I was in that. And then suddenly I saw other emails that I needed to answer. So I spent that whole time that I was going to do this podcast episode in my emails, not focused on what I wanted to do at all. So it's just so interesting to see it and to know that actually, if we work on our energy and get it right, we can condense our workday down. We can make more time. So what you were saying earlier about what are you going to deprioritize, you'll be able to do that because you'll have the time to say, okay, well, actually, I'm only going to work 6 hours instead of 8, and then I can fit this in here, and then I can actually go to bed at a decent hour and get the sleep in. So I just love how that all came together.
Yeah, okay, you're gonna love this then, especially because you're getting an Aura ring soon. So I could just love on sleep forever. But while you're sleeping, you mentioned deep sleep was a component of it. So we also get REM sleep, rapid eye movement. That's while we dream. I view REM sleep as entrepreneurial gold. And here is why. You ready for this? So there have been studies that have shown that people that get adequate amounts of REM sleep or higher amounts of REM sleep are better problem solvers. What is a business? Solving a problem. You solve bigger problems, you make more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes you more creative. Even if you're not in a creative niche, like who doesn't want to be more creative for social posts, for content, for podcast topics, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Number 2. Number 3, it helps you read facial expressions and body gestures better. Like, wouldn't it be nice to know if your team or your clients or your customers are like leaning in or they're leaning back? Like, I want my brain subconsciously to be doing that job for me so that I'm able to adjust my examples. I'm like, ooh, I maybe used a word they didn't understand. I got to go back. Like, I'm able to see that. And then here's what ties it to what you just said. The 4th reason we love REM sleep is it helps you with long-term thinking, and it helps you manage your emotions. If you've ever woken up feeling irritated and cranky, you're probably low on REM sleep. So when I show up in my business, I want to be in integrity. I want to be emotionally in control. I don't want to see a troll leave a rude comment on my Instagram and spend half the day spinning out about what I could have done differently. Should I delete it? Should I not? Should I comment back? Should I not? Like, I don't have time for that. And so I want my brain to be good at problem solving for my client's sake and mine. I want to be creative. I want to be in tune with my client, what they're experiencing. And I also want to be really good at being in control of my emotions. And that emotional control is huge for entrepreneurs. We go through the swing of it. Like, wouldn't it be nice if the amplitude of these experiences was muted just a little bit? And that's REM sleep. Like, oh, I love it. I love it.
It's and that is so true. In fact, the person who reached out to me today that completely threw me for a loop with what I wanted to actually do with my afternoon. She asked me if I was okay, because a couple of weeks ago I was on my podcast and I do these mini mindset Mondays, and I addressed, low mood and the fact that I was going through a really sort of rough place, and she was checking on me, and I'm feeling much better now. But it's so true, when you're feeling that low, everything just kind of
Harder.
everything goes, and you don't feel productive. You don't want to be at work. You'd rather stay in bed and all of that, and you're not showing up for your clients as you want to, and it can be really tough. And just knowing that actually we have more control over that, I think, than we realize, and that's what this episode is really bringing to my mind.
Right? Yeah, that mood is huge. Like
Mm.
you want to tie that back into how to make, money in your business with your energy and your mood.
Mhm.
Like who wants to work when they're feeling completely anxious or stressed out or guilt about something, or they're in the shame depths of shame or something, or they're embarrassed or they're terrified to post online or whatever it is? Like that's a hard place to be in, and
Mhm.
so much of that can be helped with getting really good quality sleep, and I think it does come down to actually putting intention in that and realizing, no, it doesn't take time out of your day, it gives you time back in the form of being more productive and effective tomorrow.
Mhm. Okay, brilliant. Right. So, one of the things that I think is a great sort of starting point for people is their routines. And we've kind of touched on that a little bit throughout the episode. But I would love it if you would go through with us what your morning and nighttime routine looks like. Because for me, always wanted this good morning routine, the 5 a.m. club, the journaling, the meditation, the exercise, and all of that jazz. And when I started trying to implement that, I realized that a good morning routine doesn't happen unless you've got a good nighttime routine. And my nighttime hygiene routine, mental hygiene, that is not physical. I do brush my teeth. It's a tough one sometimes to get round because I don't know. I feel like I kind of end up being like a little bit of a vegetable by the end of the day. So I go through and I work, and obviously I'm working slightly later than everybody else. So I kind of finish my day at 7 p.m. Then I have my dinner. Then I kind of go into sloth mode on the sofa. And even though I could quite easily go to bed, I'm like determined, no, I'm not going to bed. I'm having a couple of hours just to wind down is my is the way I trick myself. And I'm just on YouTube. And then all of a sudden it's 12:30, quarter to 1 in the morning. And my other half's going, "Are we going to bed now?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, let's do that." Not
Yeah.
great. So I would love to hear what your routine, and maybe I can take some inspiration from your morning and nighttime routine.
Yeah. You know what part of it is like, I feel like my night routine has gotten to the point where it is not something I think about anymore because I am so in love with how I feel on a daily basis that there's very little that'll get me to stay up unless I'm like really excited about something
That
on that particular day.
that
It's
1-year-old might keep you up.
they've been
Are they good
that
sleepers?
we biohacked their sleep, both of them. They've been
Brilliant.
sleeping through the night. Like everything that we do with us, we do with them. And I'm going to tell you something, and because if you're listening to this, Donna and I were talking about this earlier. I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. My sleep has never been better since having kids. And I'm going to tell you why.
Wow.
It's because having kids has given me an anchor point with which to start my evening routine. Whereas
Mm.
before, I was like, when it was just me and my husband, it was like, sure, 10:30, then it was midnight, then it was 9. And it really just depended on if we were really into something on Netflix. That was the determiner of our bedtime.
Hmm.
Kids have given me an anchor point at which
Yeah.
my night pivots. And I've never felt better. And it's partly because we also are very regimented with our kids' sleep as well, because what works for us works for them. It's so weird. We have routines with our kids, but not routines for us. We know what works for them, but we don't do it with us. Fascinating. Anyway, so I'll kind of give you an idea of what our night looks like, but I'll first preface this by saying my bedtime is 9. This is
Hmm.
not because 9 is the right bedtime. This is what's called my chronotype. My body's clock functions genetically earlier, and I am part of about 10% of the population that thrives on a 5 a.m. wake up.
Hmm.
I have 2 clients who sleep 12 to 8, wildly successful. They feel great. They are happy with their lives. So do not hear this and say, I need to start going to bed at 9.
Yeah.
I'm giving you this so that when I give you other times, they make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So our evening routine starts at 5:30. We finish dinner. So we finish dinner way in advance because that is one of the biggest things that helps with deep sleep, which is interesting because I think you said that deep sleep might be something you're struggling with.
Yeah.
Dinner time, great thing to play with because
Yeah.
having dinner within 2 to 3 hours of bed can really disrupt deep sleep. So we wrap up dinner by 5:30. If it is not a miserable, rainy Vancouver winter, we go out for a walk. I mean, if we'll tolerate some spitting rain, but we'll go out for a walk, usually about an hour. And then we will come in. If we watch TV, Netflix has a place in our home. It's not that we're like these like purist, healthy. No, we watch TV. And then, but the rule is in our house, TV goes off at 7:30. off. And keep in mind, this is an hour and a half before bedtime now. So you work backwards with your own time in your head. So 7:30, TV goes off. During the 7:30 to 8:10 time, we are turning down all the lights. We are turning on the sound machines. We will give the kids a bath or a shower every couple days. We're reading stories. It is a wind down, dim lights, dim sound. Put the kids to bed at about 8:10. At that point, I'm usually ready for bed. And screens, like I said, have been off since 7:30. From here, I will jump into bed and I will read until I fall asleep, which is usually between 8:45 and 9. So the big things to take away in there are I have decided not to stimulate my brain 90 minutes before sleep, and I have wrapped up my food at least 3 hours from sleep. Those are the two big milestones.
Yeah.
There's a couple things I'll do in the evening, like I'll take a magnesium biglycinate. That has done wonders for my sleep. But yeah, that's the big crux of my evening routine and how it flows. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think that's probably one of the things that I've lost, because my daughter's 23 this May. So I don't have the child to like, you've got to go to bed. So now what am I going to do? Because you can't make much noise once they've gone to bed.
Yeah.
So,
but I think part of it is creating your own anchor points, right? Like for us,
exactly.
that 8 p.m. is the pivot. It pivots from their bedtime routine into mine. Because if I didn't have that as a set in my mind anchor point, we could go downstairs and watch TV. And then who knows what time bedtime would be. But you don't have to. I've had clients that have older kids and they don't have an early bedtime like that. And so what they'll do is they will have a time that they call pivot time. And I have a client, for example, and she is off all work-related things by 8:30. This is one of the clients that sleeps at midnight.
Yeah.
She's off all work-related things at 8:30. And by 9:45, she turns the TV off. From 9:45 until 10:15, she's getting ready, brushing her teeth, getting ready for the next day, gets into bed to read, will fall asleep around 11:30 midnight. And I think it's like looking at our brains don't turn off and turn on. They go to sleep gradually. And the rate at which they do that has to do with how well you wound down your brain. Like I have people say all the time, like, my brain's so noisy. I can't get it to quiet down. Well, are we feeding it constantly before bed? Like, think about just scrolling through your Instagram feed. Every time you see a post, you're like, do I agree with this? Do I not? Do I click on it? Do I not? Do I like it? Do I comment? Should I check out their profile? Oh, look at their profile. What are they talking about? Should I follow them? Should I not? Like the amount of decisions and input. No wonder our brains can't rest. Or we fall asleep from exhaustion because we've just worn out every last bit of us.
True.
So that's evening routine. Now, the morning routine is actually super interesting because if we'd have had this interview 10 weeks ago, I would have given you a different answer. And here's why. So we live in Vancouver. We're on Pacific Standard Time, right? My family just spent the last 2 months in Panama. Like we went, worked, lived, got out of the winter, went somewhere in the sun, which means everything moved to Eastern Time, 3 hours ahead. My whole business moved 3 hours ahead. I was now not starting until 11 or noon every day, much like what you've experienced.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, the slowness in this morning, I can't go back. I can't, I have to hold on to this. And so I came back. My whole schedule is now moved with the exception of literally Thursdays. Everything else starts later because I really like to spend the mornings. Like I do like to move in the morning. I like to get outside a little bit. I like to read or journal, and not like every day, but just I like to do things that light me up for the day. I like to have breakfast with my kids. We like to go for a good hour family walk in the morning. And so it's about the slowness. It's about not having to rush. It's about having no parameters on when I have to be at my desk. And it has been like profoundly changing to move my schedule later, much like I imagine what you found.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, it takes away that guilt. I was finding that at sort of lunchtime for me, and obviously, this is personal to me, but at lunchtime, because my brain just wasn't ready to get up and go that early because I go to bed later, and then I was forcing myself to get up earlier. So I hadn't had the sleep that I particularly needed. And I would just find that I would just procrastinate for the whole morning. It would just, because I also have exercise classes I do Monday and Tuesday, which mean that I'm not actually ready to sit at my desk till like 11. And then I was like, faffing about with stuff, and then by 1 o'clock I'm like, it's lunchtime and I feel like I haven't got anything done. And I was like, it was making me feel guilty, and I was like, I don't want to feel guilt around it. Why don't I just not start until 12, and then I can do my exercise and I can do whatever else I need to do, have my breakfast, not rush. And on the mornings where I'm not doing exercise, that's more time to do whatever it is I want: journal, go for a walk, whatever it is. And yeah, it's working much better for me. I don't feel guilty, and I then don't feel guilty about working from sort of when my partner gets home until dinner time, because he knows that that's when I'm working. He cooks, so it's great. So I work while he's doing dinner, and when dinner time, that's kind of my pivot point that I could use as my pivot point, is dinner time happens, and then I start shutting off. I don't come back into the office after dinner time. Whereas before, because I didn't do anything in the morning, or felt I hadn't done anything in the morning, I would come back in after dinner. I would carry on working until 9 o'clock. I'd get messages from him in the living room because he'd be stuck under this cat that sat behind me. And he'd be like, hello. Are you coming in?
I think that speaks to what a lot of us lack, is very clear work boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean you have to be done by 3, or you have to start at 5, or whatever it is. But I think it's being clear. And I hear a lot of pushback sometimes with like, I don't like working within a schedule. It's restricting. But here's why I love it. Like, if I know that I'm working 12 to 5, I'm in work.
Mm.
And when 5 p.m. hits, I don't have to be sitting there going, should I be working right now? Like, I feel guilty sitting down on the couch, or I feel guilty taking a leisurely morning because I should be working. Like, you even spoke to that when you defined 12 p.m. as start. I can let go of the chatter. And so I think just saying I'm going to work today is different than being like, I work 10 to 2 on Mondays. And then it doesn't even have to be the same day to day. Like, I have 4 days a week for work, and they all are different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Brilliant. Okay. This has been a fantastic conversation. And I know that we could talk for hours, because it was so funny. I actually had a social media post that a friend put up. She's doing this kind of membership around giving ourselves space and giving, back to ourselves. And so many parallels to what we're talking about, to what I sort of said in her comments under that post that she put out today. But, we've only got so much time. So tell everybody where they can find you, because I think that would be wonderful. And I think you've got a free gift that we might be able to put out to the audience as well.
Yeah. So I imagine if you've been listening to this episode and you're like, I hear you, the stress thing. I hear you, the food thing. I hear you, the sleep thing. And I get the consistency part, but what do? I put together I call them my 12 biohacks, or like the things that you can experiment with and test. And I put them in a playbook called my Entrepreneur's Playbook, 12 Ways to Biohack Your Energy. And in this, you're going to find the 12 things that I feel are the biggest needle movers on having more energy and productivity. And the beautiful thing is, if you're reading one of them and you love it, every one of them is linked to an episode of my podcast, Becoming Limitless, where I take that topic and break it down with how it applies to your business and step-by-step application. Awesome. So you're never going to feel lost, and you look at it like a buffet. You apply one, you deep dive on it, you get your result, you come back for another one. You could realistically do one a week for 12 weeks. You'd be a different person at the end of the quarter.
Yeah.
So it's on my website at TanessaShears.com/energy.
Brilliant. I will link that in the show notes. And where's your favorite place to hang out online?
Instagram. I'm on Instagram, just at my name, Tanessa Shears. Easy to find me on there.
Brilliant. Now, I like to do a quick fire round with my guests to find out a little bit more about you. So if you're up for that, we can do that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first question is, what is your favorite podcast to listen to?
I've been listening to it since 2015. It is the Life Coach School podcast with Brooke Castillo.
Love
it's fundamentally
that one.
Changed how I view the world. Like, wow.
Brilliant. Love a bit of Brooke Castillo. So I will link that in the show notes for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
She is brilliant. Go and have a listen. And what's the book that's made the biggest impact on your life thus far?
Oh, I would have to say something that like, this is a hard one. Cause like, I love books. Like, I'm a big reader. I would have to say something along the lines of like, and I've got it on my desk, like a Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. This one, or even Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Both of them are really looking at like how your thoughts create your reality. Love it. Love that whole idea of personal responsibility and creating my own results and not letting, my future be in someone else's hands. Love it.
Love that. Love that. Okay. What's your go-to snack when you're in a hurry?
Oh, tea. Even if I'm not in a hurry, tea, it's tea. It's loose leaf, organic green tea. Cheers.
Love that. Yes. Huge tea
Yeah,
drinker over here.
because you can take it on the go. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then what's your favorite me time thing to do?
I've recently really loved sound baths. Do you know what a sound bath is?
Yes, I do, but do enlighten the listeners in case they don't.
Yeah, because I was one of those people that like, how you're supposed to do meditation, but you never make time for it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, and I pushed against it, and I'm like, but I'm in this industry. I should love it. Hated it. And then synchronicity, what you want to call it, my reticular activating system, whatever it is, sound bath was put in front of me. It's basically we have different emotions and they vibrate at different frequencies. So what these sound baths do is they do a progressive guided meditation, but they're playing this, they have these bowls called singing bowls, and they rub this, like, I don't know, my words are probably terrible, stick along the top of it. And it sings this particular frequency, and it's meant to tune your emotional vibration. And so there are ones that I really dug into, releasing fear was a big one for December for me. But just I can let 40 minutes go by. I don't know who I am. My clients are laughing. They're like, Tanessa, you've gone to the woo. Like, I love them. I'm not a meditator, but something about these, I feel it in my soul, a difference when I get up from these. So I mean, there's plenty you can find on YouTube. I have a subscription to Aloe Moves, which is it's a clothing company and a yoga company. But I found that they have them in there, and I'm just like, yes, give me the sound baths.
Brilliant. I love that. That's fantastic. That's one that we've not had before. So I absolutely love a new option. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Tanessa. It's been fantastic to have you. Thank you so much for all of your information.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, guys, that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't yet caught our Monday episode, then head over and take a listen to that. Now I will link it in the show notes for you as well. And I will see you next week. Bye for now. If you're looking to build a deeper connection with your audience this year and you're a passionate business owner with a message to share, then I would love to help you do that via podcasting. If you're interested in starting a podcast this year, head over to donnaeade.com/apply to register your interest today. Don't forget to hit subscribe where you listen and rate and review the podcast if you've enjoyed it. You can also share this episode with a friend. It is a great way to help the podcast out to get to more listeners just like you.